Perfect.
Welcome into Tips for Gamers, and in today's video we are going to be providing you with the most realistic XP sliders in Madden 22, and also an in-depth reason on why we chose these XP sliders. This is a topic we struggled with over time because it is not easy to provide a single answer as to why the XP sliders should be set to a certain number without answering questions that form realism as we know it. And with that being said, guys, make sure to like the video if you like the work that we do. Comment down below. Do peck pops or do chunky beef. Whatever you guys want to comment. Just make sure it's appropriate. And to top that off, guys, make sure to head to our site, get merched up, and let's light it up. We want to make some points before we just jump into our XP sliders to give you the full spectrum of why we chose the XP sliders that we did. We find that too many people just say things without actually breaking down what they mean and how they are trying to correlate realism in Madden. Stop considering all 99 overall players the same rating in Madden. There appears to be a stigma against having at least one 99 overall player at each position, and to us this makes no sense. It is like people believe all 99 overalls are the same, as if there's a singular connection in talent just because a player is a 99 overall. This just shows us that people do not truly realize that Madden created the 99 overall as a cutoff, and it cuts off the true overall of a player rated that high. Two 99 overall players of the same position can be completely different, yet people will act as if they are somehow equal. This baffles us. A 99 overall player only means that Madden in essence stopped counting. Two 99 overalls can be light years in difference between each other, to a point that it is so obvious yet no one seems to realize it. If Madden truly rated players of really high overalls, you would likely see players reach into the 120 overall range, while others capped out at just 99. Just because a made-up, auto-generated running back is a 99 overall does not mean that said player will come close in value or excellence as Barry Sanders when he played the game. Barry Sanders would have likely been rated 120 plus in overall. Just because a player is a 99 overall doesn't mean it is taking away from the realism of real life. This also goes for every position except a select few. For example, we have two halfbacks here that we modified, James Conner and Chase Edmonds. Both are 99 overalls, yet they are entirely different if you break them down. And we'll just go through them here. Speed rating is an 82 for Conner, 99 here. And we'll just go down the list, 89, 99, 82, 90. But this should have been a 99 even though Madden cut it off, but this just still proves our point even further. One COD, 99 here. The same all across the board on trucking and everything besides stiff arm. Okay, one spin move, one juke move for Conner, while you see down below Chase Edmonds is at a 99 across the board. Spectacular catch, short route running. He's not a receiving back whatsoever, and he can't juke at all. They're giving it to him because he's a pure power back. Yet Chase Edmonds we made to where he is more rounded. And across the board, you're just going to see the numbers change drastically. Also, we increased the injury rating to Chase Edmonds to a 99. And you can see here, if we decrease James Conner even to a 1 across the board with stamina, toughness, and injury, it wouldn't reflect his overall whatsoever. So you could end up getting a 99 overall player, and another guy can have a 99 overall player, and they are not even close. If you were to answer the question, who would you rather have out of these two halfbacks, even though both of them are a 99 overall, I don't even have to guess who you would pick. Not even the slightest. Now let's move on to quarterback. We also modified Kyler Murray and Chris. As you can see here, Kyler Murray is much better throughout the board. One speed for Chris, one acceleration, one agility, one COD, one strength rating. Okay, and we've talked about how certain ratings don't mean much. If you were to truly grade Kyler Murray, he wouldn't be the same rating as Chris. Not even close. You'd be much higher. And you can see their throw power, their medium, all accuracies across the board are the same, except for the throw on the run. Chris has a 1. A freaking 1. You look at the throw under pressure, he has a 74 compared to a 99. you look at these two and you would say, okay, if you just saw their overalls, they're equal. And in fact, they're not even close to equal. Look at his injury ratings, a 1, toughness is a 1, stamina is a 1. Now, injury, toughness, and stamina don't go into the making of the rating. However, this correlates so strongly of how talented a player actually is. If he's not on the field, well, then it doesn't really matter what his overall is because he's never playing. We just wanted to prove this point. Of course, we went dramatic with it and put these guys to 1 ratings in certain categories, but we did that to prove a point. Not all 99 overalls are the same of each position, so we cannot consider them the same. These two would likely have much different careers if you simulated or even played with them. So that is one thing you have to realize, is you're not taking away from realism just because of the fact that guy says he's a 99 overall on his rating. It's not taking away from realism at all, because Madden doesn't even provide us with realism as we know it. Realism goes much more than just what we see on the surface. It goes much deeper. That is why we believe every position should have a 99 overall or close to a 99 overall each year. Quentin Nelson, for example, is a 96 overall currently, and he is obviously the best left guard in the NFL at this moment, and may even be considered in the top 5 best left guards or guards in the history of the NFL. If he is the best left guard in the NFL at this very moment, and has been for multiple years now, then why would he not be a 99 overall is the true question. If a player is not a 99 overall, we believe that they should at least be close, at least within 2 overall points. In every position, you can find a single player that dominates the game, and having them a 99 overall or close to a 99 overall will not take away from the Hall of Famers before them. We wanted to really think about our XP sliders and why they should be at a certain percentage. We did not want to take away from the legends of the game. We know from research and pure obviousness that the NFL is only getting more talented as the years go on. Players are getting bigger, faster, and more deadly than ever before, and this will only increase as each year passes. And since we do believe there should be a 99 or close to a 99 overall player at each position, we needed to also keep the integrity of talent of the Hall of Famers and their dominance in the game of football. We wanted to keep the realism alive in Madden and didn't want to take away from players like Ed Reed, Barry Sanders, Randy Moss, and many others. This is why we wanted to break down what realism is in Madden before we just jumped into why we created the XP sliders that we created. We wanted to understand the definition of realism and how it can be implemented in Madden terms. We asked ourselves so many questions, and we kept asking ourselves questions and kept asking questions, and we did our best to find every answer that we could, that we didn't just give you guys a bull crap statement of these are the most realistic XP sliders, and didn't provide you guys with the best answers on why we chose what we chose. We also had to combat the difference between auto-generated players and user-controlled players. An auto-generated player is a player that does not receive a bump in overall based upon how they played during the season. They only receive an overall increase through the XP they are awarded. User-controlled players, however, are real players that can receive an increase in overall based upon how the rating adjusters feel said player did during the season. User-controlled players can receive a 10+ increase in overall without the XP sliders influencing this overall increase whatsoever. Tristan Wirfs, for example, came into the NFL with a 70+ overall and jumped to an 89 overall after the rating adjusters increased it. If Tristan Wirfs had to rely on the standard XP sliders, he would not come anywhere close to reaching an 89 overall after 1 year. We had to take this into consideration when making our XP sliders. A lot of people sim 10 years and take the average overalls and make their decisions based upon that, which is not what should be done. User-controlled players will always be a higher overall than auto-generated players every single time. So what you will see in 10-year sim is higher overall average that drastically decreases when all real players retire from the NFL within 15 years. So if we know that players are getting more talented as the years go on, then overalls should only increase in selective sequences. That is why we're going to provide you with alternatives to this. If you truly want a realistic XP slider setup, you will want to increase your XP sliders in selective sequences. There's no perfect ratio, but we found that we came close to capturing realistic XP sliders. So as you can see on your screen, we simulated to 2031 with our XP sliders. And before we jump into the XP sliders, we want to go over the overalls that you see in front of you. We have 299 overall quarterbacks. It goes 97, and then it starts dropping off after this. But what I want you to look at is who is realistic and who is not. So you're going to see Trevor Lawrence is realistic, Lamar Jackson, and these guys are likely going to decrease in overall relatively soon. So they're going to start dropping down. And what you're going to see here is we started to create a bump for the auto-generated players. And yes, you have a higher average overall. There's no doubt about that. There's a lot more 90 overalls. But what we wanted to where the younger guys are going to start to be able to come up and start to be able to replace these guys who are real players. So even though we look at this and see that it has a higher average overall, doesn't mean we don't believe that this is accurate as it gets. Because having 299 overall quarterbacks in the NFL at this moment in time is not crazy to even think about. We compare quarterbacks all the time of Aaron Rodgers, Pat Mahomes, Tom Brady, you name it, and that's not going to decrease as time goes on. People act as if the quarterback position will eventually die off and we're going to have nothing but 80 overall quarterbacks in 2030, which is something that I definitely don't see happening. On halfback here, you're seeing some of these guys. Rodney Pearson, 27 years old. These guys are getting to the 99 overall when they're older. There's not a lot of them that are getting to it when they're young. He's a 4-year pro, Daniel Callaway here. And you're going to see the rare circumstances where you're going to find a very good halfback or a very good player at a certain position. But then what you're going to see too is like J.K. Dobbins, he will drop off. He's going to start regressing. Shepard will start regressing soon. So these guys only hang on to that 99 overall range for a selective period of time, and then they drop off quickly after that. So that's really what we wanted. We wanted to have the option to where these guys like Najee Harris, he got up to a high overall, and then he's going to decrease. And once you have no more user guys, you're going to be based upon just the auto-generated draft classes, unless you're downloading draft classes, and these overalls tend to be lower. Linemen tend to almost drop off completely, and the average overall of linemen go to where it's like 85 overall within, not even average, but that's considered high within 15 years. And that's ridiculous. An 85 overall lineman being considered one of your best linemen in the NFL in the 2030s is just atrocious. It's atrocious. It's not the way real life works. So we wanted to capture real life as much as possible. So yeah, you will see a lot of high overall guys, but you're going to see a lot of low overall guys that are going to take a while to get good. Fullbacks is a position that we struggled with tremendously because they just don't love fullbacks at all. And in fact, no matter how much you increase fullbacks, this is basically what you're looking at here. You're going to find the guys with the name Callaway apparently are talented. The rest of the guys are not, and they're getting older. But this is something we wanted to capture as well, is that the older guys are up there. Younger guys can come up too, like Jeffrey Callaway's 25. But most of the guys that are up there are the guys who are older. You're going to notice this is a trend on each position that we have. Brian Mullins, he's 31 years old. He's not going to hang on to this overall for much more than maybe a few more years if he's lucky. Okay, then you're going to see him be replaced by Rashard Hartwell. You're going to see Justin Jefferson start to decrease even more. Toby Castillo is going to end up replacing him. Jamar Chase is going to drop off. And you're going to see this as a trend. You're going to see the guys who are just very talented, like Marvin Goodwell. He's going to end up getting up there and replacing these guys and taking the torch. And that's really what we wanted to see. Now, tight end is another position that we struggled with because in the position of tight end, Kyle Pitts got to such a high overall so quickly that we felt that, okay, we have our 99 overall, which is our goal. However, what happened was he'd be the only 99 overall guy and everyone else would just fall off. It started to become where it wasn't even close. It was Kyle Pitts and then everyone else just completely decreased. Now remember, just because these guys are close to Kyle Pitts in overall does not mean that they're close to Kyle Pitts in overall, because of the fact that overalls they stop grading them after a 99 overall. Kyle Pitts is 92 speed. These guys aren't coming close to that. So these guys truly are not as talented as Kyle Pitts, even though their overalls suggest otherwise. Just remember that Madden stopped counting. So with linemen, we really struggled because linemen in Madden tend to be horrible overalls the more you simulate. If you go 15 years, it really decreases. You'll see that an 85 overall is considered a high overall. And how does that make sense in realism? How are guys getting worse in the NFL as years go on? Guys are only getting bigger, faster, and stronger as we keep moving forward as a society. That's the way it works. Becton is 6'7", 364 pounds. Never would you see a guy like this in the early 2000s who is extremely talented. You just wouldn't. It just didn't exist in the 80s, the 90s. You're seeing it increase within a decade. You're seeing talent increase in huge levels. So you're only going to expect that as the years go on. But what we wanted to really increment here is that it took a while to get good for these guys, and then they're not going to be able to hang on to it forever. Phillips Adkins is the best guy in the NFL right now that we have in this simulation. He's 28 years old. He's going to hang on to this for maybe 4 more years and then he's done. He's going to start decreasing. You're going to start to see that decrease hit him, or that regression hit him. And then occasionally you're going to find this guy, Brooks Blond, a 25-year-old 4-year pro, is a 94 overall. Obviously, these guys got a morale boost. So, remember that as we're going through this. He has a +2 morale boost. So he's really a 92 overall. So these overalls are a little bit inflated. But it's still something that we should be taking into consideration. This is the generational guy right here. Okay, he's 25. Aside from that, it drops off tremendously, and then you're seeing like Frank Gaddis here, who he even probably has a 2 plus morale boost, which he does. He's actually an 85. So you're seeing this really happen throughout. He's an 84, Mason Matthews. So we are getting to a point to where there are those real strong guys that are coming in that are auto-generated players that are the same as real life players. Almost every one of these positions you're going to find the same, and apparently the Bengals did really good at drafting these guys because these guys are a beast, but you're getting another 4-year pro here. Okay, that's 25 years old, who's a high overall. These guys are worth trading for. These guys are worth bringing on. But the auto-generated players aren't dying completely in this. And that's what we wanted to implement. Center was a very tough position for us. Guards, tackles, you name it. So you're seeing these overalls across the board, and then you're seeing it drop down. So there's really only like 10 teams that have a good right tackle, good right guard, something like that, or a mixture of the few that we have. If we move on to D linemen here, ends were particularly very difficult as well to grade because, just from the same page, we go from a 99 overall to a 90 overall. You're seeing a lot of these guys are older as well, so they're going to start regressing and start to drop down. And then you see your 25-year-old who's a 90 overall, likely is an 88, 4-year pro. This is what we wanted to implement in. You're seeing these guys come out like Chase Young after 1 year. They're a 90 overall after 1 year. You can't implement that in Madden with auto-generated players without heavily influencing their overalls. Even Nick Bosa is the top guy, Chase Young. Right ends, we found that they were the highest overalls. And in running back, going back to running back real quick, what we found is when we simulated, you're going to find a bunch of 99 overalls at one point. And that's because of the fact that it's all user-controlled players. And then once those user-controlled players start to drop off, this is what you'll see. Okay, so this is something we want you guys to remember. But even going on to D tackle here, you got your 99 overall. This is the rarity. This is the guy right here. He came in 99 overall. He's a 26-year-old 5-year pro. And then it goes from a 99 overall to a 96, which likely he's a 94. A 94 here. And these guys are older, so you're finding your rare guys in here, and then it drops off. We felt that this is the most realistic XP sliders that you can come across. Once again, a 28-year-old, 96 overall, likely a 94. You know, we wanted to get them as close to a 99 as possible, and at some point in time, even middle linebacker here, we struggled with, because we wanted these guys to be high overall. So we're going to give you our overalls here after this, and then you guys can increase them or decrease them how you feel you want to decrease them. Now, some guys will say, well, I'm very talented in Madden, and if it's a higher XP slider, I'll be able to get a bunch of 99 overall guys. Well, here's the other thing that you want to remember in this sequence here. You want to remember that there's no way you're going to be able to afford your guys. Okay, so you're going to constantly have to be replacing them, which means that you're going to have to give those guys away to other guys who can sign them. So in essence, even though you're feeding and making your guys good in your league, your profit on your team or your talent, other teams are going to profit from how talented you are. So remember that. Safeties were a real pain in the neck. Safeties just, they don't want to make safeties good, and this is just atrocious. Now, if you look at these overalls, you see a 91, and then it drops off tremendously after that. Kickers and punters, the same thing. So we wanted to show you these overalls before we showed you the XP sliders, so that way you guys could get a feel for what we were looking for and what we were trying to implement. So we wanted to show you guys our players first, so that way you didn't just see the XP sliders and say, wow, those are too high. Because we wanted to really increment in realism. There's no reason there shouldn't be a 25-year-old who's a 92 to a 94 overall if he's talented enough. No reason. We do it and accept it all the time in the NFL and in Madden to this day. We do it all the time. So why not implement the same thing in the same realism when you're putting it into your XP sliders? Now, there's two different ways on how you can make your XP sliders more realistic. You can do it in selective sequences like we mentioned previously. For example, with quarterbacks, we tested out of putting them to 110% until 2028. And in 2028, we increased it to 130% because we were preparing for the user-controlled players to fall off. Same thing goes with halfback. We had them to 114% until 2028. And in 2028, we increased it to 128%. We did the same thing with tight ends as well, increased it to 130% until 2028, and then increased it to 160%. Wide receivers were at 114%, then 138%. It's up to you on how you want to do this. 2028 is right around your cutoff. So you want to decrease it if you want it super realistic. You want to decrease these slightly from what you see on your screen. And then once you reach 2028, you want to increase it to what you see on your screen because you're preparing for the auto-generated players. This is something we wanted you all to realize here. So what we have here is we had 130% for quarterbacks, 128% for halfbacks, tight ends at 160%. Because remember that Kyle Pitts is an individual, and even though you're increasing the rest of the league, you are not taking anything away from Kyle Pitts. In fact, you are only making him more realistic. Wide receivers to 138%. Fullbacks were up to 300% the entire time. Okay, and that's up to you guys. You guys can keep this the entire time. 166% for tackles, 170% for guards, 170% for centers, 140% for defensive ends and defensive tackles. And remember to increase this if you want or decrease this if you want. Middle linebackers, 131%. And honestly, on this one, I'd probably even increase it to 138%, right around there, just because middle linebackers we found to be a real pain in the neck. Outside linebackers, 155%. Cornerbacks 138%, free safeties 158%, strong safeties 148%, and kickers and punters are at 300%. We played around with the 260% range for them, then 280% range, and honestly 300% is where we felt the biggest difference. And even then, it's just frustrating because a lot of people say, well, kickers and punters, they're not as good. It seems like they're struggling in recent years. That is true, but there's no real way for us to calculate that, hey, they're going to struggle one year and not one other year. That's just too hard when it comes to XP sliders, so we generalized it and made it to 300%. And remember that this list is on our website. You can find us in the description down below. You can find us on Google News. You can find us anywhere. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. We'll see you in the next one.
Perfect.